I'm not sure a lot of people have heard about this, but the Supreme Court has been making a couple of rulings over the past 2 weeks, and this one is actually very important, especially for those who are indigenous, because the Supreme Court has ruled against the Navajo Nation water rights case. Now, we're talking about the indigenous people, the people who were here on the land first. And Supreme Court ruled against it. Now, a lot of people are talking about this. Listen to this story.
We're back now with breaking news out of the Supreme Court, new rulings, including one against the Navajo Nation on their effort to get the federal government to address the tribe's desperate need for access to clean water. NBC's Julia Ainsley is joining us now with more on this. So we have, Julia, been watching, waiting, thinking it was going to happen any moment now. Some decisions, major decisions, I should say, involving affirmative action, student loans, voting rights, gay rights as well, and much, much more. This is not that. However, this is a pretty important decision as well. Walk folks through what we know.
Yeah, that's right, Anna. It's the end of the term here at the Supreme Court. We expect more decisions tomorrow and into next week, but we're thinking that with that little time left, some of those bigger decisions would be coming. But today we got 4 smaller decisions, but most important among those, and it's not a small decision for the Navajo Nation, is a decision, a 5-4 decision in which Justice Kavanaugh wrote for the majority saying that a 155-year-old law regarding water access for the Navajo Nation means that the federal government does not have to ensure water access for the Navajo Nation. That's a
Let's just pause there for a second. Are any of the people on the Supreme Court, are any of these justices indigenous? No, right? Okay. But they're making decisions for what happens to the indigenous people. Anybody see a problem with that? The Supreme Court has ruled that the federal government does not have to guarantee access to clean water to the Navajo Nation. It wasn't just Flint, guys. It's not just Jackson, Mississippi. Think about that. This is disgusting.
Low for the Navajo Nation. It's one of their most important issues. They've been fighting for water access. They say that the United States needs to do more to make sure that their large swath of land, bigger than the state of West Virginia, is able to get water access. And today, Justice Kavanaugh saying the law didn't provide for that, and it's not up to us to rewrite a 155-year law.
In other words, screw you. Figure it out on your own. Listen to this. The Supreme Court rules against the Navajo Nation in water rights case. The vote was 5-4. With the majority finding that an 1868 treaty did not require the federal government to ensure the tribe had access to water. Isn't this crazy? You can't survive without water. It goes on to say the Supreme Court ruled against the Navajo Nation on Thursday in a water rights case, rejecting the tribe's suit against the federal government in a dispute over access to the drought-depleted Colorado River system. The vote was 5-4, Kavanaugh writing for the majority. He said an 1868 peace treaty at the heart of the case did not require the federal government to take affirmative steps to secure water for the Navajo. And to that, I say, so what? You could do it anyway. Let me go on here. To date, their efforts to find out what water rights the United States holds for them have produced an experience familiar to any American who has spent time in the Department of Motor Vehicles. Now, this is coming from Justice Neal. The Navajo have waited patiently for anyone, to help them, only to be told repeatedly that they have been standing in the wrong line and must try another. He added that the runaround had persisted for decades. When this routine first began in the earnest, Elvis was still making his rounds on the Ed Sullivan Show. They've been fighting for access to water for decades. Now, they don't want to make a decision. The federal government doesn't want to give indigenous people access to water, but they can give billions of dollars to people in Ukraine. Pay attention, folks. More U.S. Supreme Court decisions and developments. So that's the water rights case. There's other ones coming up as well. The Navajo tribe is one of the largest in the United States with more than 300,000 enrolled members, Justice Kavanaugh wrote. And its reservation, a product of the treaty, is the biggest in the nation, spanning more than 17 million acres in parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. It's about the size of West Virginia. The tribe sued the federal government in 2003, seeking to compel it to assess the tribe's need and devise a plan to meet them. The states of Arizona, Colorado, and Nevada intervened in the suit, seeking to protect their own access to water from the Colorado River system. By the way, Bill Gates is just buying up water and farmland. As Justice Kavanaugh framed the question in the case, the tribe sought to force the federal government to take concrete steps to obtain water for it. The Navajos do not contend that the U.S. has interfered with their access to water. Rather, the Navajos argue that the U.S. must take affirmative steps to secure water for the tribe. For example, by assessing the tribe's water needs, developing a plan to secure the needed water, and potentially building pipelines, pumps, wells, and other water infrastructure. The treaty, Justice Kavanaugh concluded, did not impose such an obligation. The historical record does not suggest that the U.S. agreed to undertake affirmative efforts to secure water for the Navajos, any more than the U.S. agreed to farm land, mine minerals, harvest timber, build roads, or construct bridges on the reservation. My thing is, even if it wasn't in the original treaty, you do the right thing now. To me, that's common sense. That's how I feel about that issue. This is ridiculous. When it comes to water, you know, they have plenty of water for the people who they basically feel deserve it, the people who have the money, right? This is why they were okay. Our government's okay with people in Flint having dirty water. They were okay with people in Jackson, Mississippi having dirty water. They're okay with people in East Palestine, Ohio right now being poisoned and sick from the air. They're okay with that. Those people are poor. They don't matter to them. But to go a step further and to tell indigenous people who were here first that it is not your responsibility to make sure they have access to water. What does that tell you about this government? Think about that.